All right, good evening, everybody. Today is Memorial Day. It is Monday, May 29th, 2023. It's about 8:55 p.m. Reporting live from Chambers Street here in Lower Manhattan. So before we get started, obviously want to, take a moment. I think it's important and remember, all of those active duty military members, but especially the people who have, fought and died and lost their lives, unfortunately, to protect this fantastic country we have here, the United States of America. So hopefully you all had a great Memorial Day weekend and a good long weekend. But it is back to business tomorrow, and next week is going to be a pretty big week on Wall Street, even though it is going to be a shortened trading week. There's going to be multiple notable earnings reports, which is mainly going to be crowded towards the cybersecurity sector. Obviously, last week we had the leader in cybersecurity report, Palo Alto Networks. They reported a better than expected quarter, and they raised forward guidance for the entire fiscal year. Now, Thursday is June 1st. So that means we are going to get some much needed manufacturing data from the Institute for Supply Management. So we're going to be talking about the PMI numbers as well. We'll take a quick look at futures. If you look at the E-mini futures on the S&P 500, ticker symbol ES, we're about flat. We're up about 10 points. If you look at the Dow 30, ticker symbol YM, we're also about flat. We're up 46 points. And then lastly, if you look at the NASDAQ 100 futures, the NQ, we are up about 57 points. We'll take a quick peek at crude oil, and then we will get started. Looks like crude opened at $72.81. We'll go over to cnbc.com/bonds. We'll take a look at where yields are. Looks like that 1-month Treasury is almost at 6%, 5.858%. You have the 1-year well above 5%. Again, 1-year Treasury at 5.249%. And the 10-year is the 3.762%. If you look at the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, or the average, we're trading at a 7 handle, 7.14%. Let me go ahead and close the computer here and we'll get started. Give me 1 second. Tonight we're going to be going across the Manhattan Bridge. All right. Hey, GG NYC is here. Says good evening, Tom and everybody. Cash NYC, what's up? Good to see you. Jay is here. Bree Grams, Andrew. Valor Rabbit, good to see you. Jay Brick Stonewall, Sabrina Fair. Once again, this is the corner of West Broadway and Chambers Street, overlooking the beautiful One World Trade Center. Now, we are going to be walking past the Oculus tonight, but then we're going to be making a left and going all the way to the Manhattan Bridge. I think it's going to be a pretty clear night. I think the rain should hold off. So we'll have some nice views from the Manhattan Bridge. 2 nights ago, we walked across the Brooklyn Bridge. Last night, we were able to take the Staten Island Ferry. And tonight, we will hit the Manhattan Bridge. We'll continue to walk down Broadway. Hey, Dan Zhang says, hey, Tom, did you do any Memorial Day weekend barbecues? I didn't. Brandy Parker says, hey. Bree Grams, good to see you. Now, I do have some unfortunate news. So I, obviously, in, unfortunate fashion today, I received an overwhelming amount of text messages and emails. The founder of Investors Business Daily, William J. O'Neill, or Bill O'Neill. He did pass away, I believe, today or the day before. And obviously, a lot of his work has been a big part of this channel, right? A big part of the stream here at Walks on Wall Street. Big proponents of Investors Business Daily, as well as probably one of the greatest investment books ever written, How to Make Money in Stocks. So I think tomorrow, probably on CNBC, Bloomberg, all of the major financial channels, they'll probably be doing tributes to the late, great Bill O'Neill. So really sad news, unfortunate news. If you look all the way uptown, you can see the Empire State Building and One Vanderbilt. Pretty clear night. And I think, the biggest thing about Bill O'Neill is just this unwavering optimism. Anytime you would, I never really worked for him directly, but I've known people who worked directly for him, and he always had this unbelievable, optimistic outlook on the United States and a never-ending stream of opportunities in America. And I think that's going to continue to play out in perpetuity. So I think it's important, especially during these times when economic environments are uncertain, right? We're going through all this debt ceiling sort of craziness, a lot of, wild stuff in the global macro sort of sector. If you look back, especially throughout American history, the innovation happens here, right? The vast majority of the world's innovation, the best new companies, the best new technologies, they're going to happen here. All of that is going to happen here. So, hey, Troy Atman, good to see you. British Gray, welcome, welcome. Hey, Neil says, hey, from the UK, good to see you. Annette says, hey, Tom, will we be able to visit the Economics and Finance High School today? You're right by the school. Maybe, where is it exactly? Maybe if you can give me a street name, maybe we'll pass by it. But once we get right here, which is going to be right outside of the One World Trade Center, we're actually going to make a left, and we will be heading to the Manhattan Bridge tonight. But it's going to be a pretty action-packed week on Wall Street. Obviously today, Monday, Memorial Day, both equity and fixed income markets were closed in observation of Memorial Day. But we are going to get a ton of economic data out. Specifically, I'm looking forward to Thursday, which is already the 1st of June, which I can't believe. It is unbelievable. We are already approaching June. But as we know, on the first business day of every single month, that is when we hear from the Institute for Supply Management as they release their manufacturing PMIs. And this will really allow us to take a look at the health of the manufacturing sector in the United States. Now, I want to give you guys a really good resource, I should say a really good free resource, because a lot of times when we talk about the ISM PMI numbers specifically, I always say once the report comes out, you should automatically, the first thing you should do is update your financial models in Excel or Google Sheets, because from there you could actually see a visual of the business cycle in real time. But if you don't have time to do it yourself, if you don't have time to plug and chug these numbers in Excel, well, there's actually a really good free resource I'll give you guys. So if you type Y chart, so Y and then CHART, it's going to bring you to the Y charts website, where you will have 10 years of historical PMI data, and you can adjust the graph accordingly for a 12-month look back on the PMI numbers, 2-year look back, all the way to up to 10-year look back. And you can sort of play around with this data and plug and chug it in Excel for yourself. And I think you guys will find very, very interesting correlations between the peaks and the troughs within the manufacturing sector of the economy and its correlation to GDP growth and its correlation to S&P 500 returns. So feel free to use that resource. Once again, it's !Y chart. It'll bring you right to the website. Really good data, about 10 years of ISM PMI data for free. Hey, Richard Smith, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Happy Memorial Day to you. Somebody says your birthday is June 3rd. Happy birthday to you. Yeah, I can't believe it's already June, and it's actually not that hot. It was kind of cold today, especially if you were out on Long Island. I had a couple friends that were at Jones Beach, which is awesome place out there on Long Island. Also Toe Bay Beach. Heard it was very windy and very cold today. So hopefully as we move into the summer, I'll give you one more look at the World Trade Center here. Yeah, hopefully it'll get a little bit warmer. Celeste says this conversation is reminding me of my economics classes in college. I graduated college the year you were born. Wow. Well, 1995 is a great year. Love that year. This is the Oculus here, everybody. Hey, Blue Sky, what's up? Your neighbor is here. Says Wall Street better print me more money tomorrow. Well, I mean, futures are about flat. It doesn't seem like we have that big of a reaction to the, I should say, all but tentative debt ceiling deal. But we'll see. I think, the theme of last week's live stream was all about being a contrarian, right, in honor of Sam Zell. And we have been getting a lot of economic surveys and data out. Specifically last week, we had the Small Business Sentiment Survey that was put on by Goldman Sachs, sent out a survey to 10,000 small businesses, and over 70% of small businesses in the United States are very concerned about their ability to access capital over the next 12 months. Now, I think that information is very important because if you think about the same survey that was sent out this time last year, it was completely inversed. The survey was completely different. So you had 77% of small businesses extremely optimistic as it relates to access to capital over the next 12 months. But as we know, interest rates have gone up significantly. So if you look at the Fed funds rate now, the target range is 5% to 5.25%. That means, small business loans and lines of credit could be as much as 10% depending on credit risk and credit quality. However, the PMIs, which we are going to get out on June 1st, seem to be maybe telling a little bit of a different story. And if you go back and do some research throughout history, the PMI numbers tend to trough around these levels. This is the Millennium Hotel, really nice hotel right here, across the street from the Oculus. Beautiful building, a very unique building here in Lower Manhattan. Hey, Sparks Carnival says, good evening, everybody. Welcome. Brendan O'Brien says, what do you think happens with liquidity now that the debt ceiling resolved in principle? Well, I don't know. I think in my view, and we've sort of gone over this yesterday and the day before on the live stream, and I tweeted about this the moment they made the deal, right? I think this was Saturday night. I got a Reuters notification that said, President Joe Biden, as well as Speaker McCarthy, came to a deal to resolve the debt limit. And this happens every time. It's really no different, right? What happens is the media has a frenzy. There's so much fear. They parade out a bunch of, financial gurus and experts on the mainstream financial channels. And then it always comes down to the wire. And then we have a deal, which usually involves just raising the debt limit and increasing our spending again. So I mean, I was under the impression that we were really never going to have a big issue as it relates to, I think that I should phrase it like this. I never thought that we would have a big issue with defaulting on our debt obligations. I think that's just non-negotiable. And it would also be political suicide for whichever party, was responsible for that, right? Even though that we could argue one way or the other what's the right thing to do or not, at the end of the day, it's all politics. And yeah, I just think it's the same thing every time. It's a big dog and pony show all the way to the end, and then they come up with an agreement. But I don't know, what do you guys think? Now, my prediction for the markets, I mean, I think it's a non-issue, but I think it's very possible that tomorrow we could actually see a little bit of a pullback in the market. I really don't like to give day-to-day predictions because it just really doesn't matter in the long run. But that's usually how markets work sometimes, right? I mean, the Main Street had all of their sights set on this big debt ceiling. Everybody was freaking out. You even had some senior citizens that truly believed that their Social Security checks were actually in jeopardy, which, I mean, that would never happen in a million years. I guess it's appropriate to say never, but it's sort of obvious what was going to happen. So one would think that, hey, the debt ceiling, that problem is resolved. We should have a big rally. Well, maybe not. Maybe we'll actually get a much needed pullback and chop around this week on this shortened trading week. Yeah, Sparks Carnival says the only real earnings report tomorrow is Hewlett Packard, and I'm not expecting very good numbers. Yeah, so Sparks Carnival, I wanted your take on this specifically, actually, because this week is a shortened week on Wall Street, right? Tuesday through Friday, but there actually is some very notable earnings reports that are coming out in probably one of the sectors that I think are actually going to lead going well into the next part of the decade, and that is cybersecurity. Now, last week we had Palo Alto Networks, which is my personal, well, I should say, in my opinion, is the leader in cybersecurity. Palo Alto Networks reported a beat and raise quarter. They beat analyst expectations on both the top and the bottom line. They raised forward guidance. But next week we're going to hear from Okta, ticker symbol OKTA. Now, Okta specializes in identity and access management, cybersecurity, acronym IAM. They are also a competitor with Ping Identity, if you've heard about them. Now, Ping Identity also plays in the IAM space, but they were actually taken private. They were a publicly traded company under the ticker symbol PING, but Orlando Bravo's private equity company, Thoma Bravo, actually just did a deal last year, the later part of the last year, to take the company private. Now, that company is based out of Denver, Colorado. Let's cross here. I'll take you guys to the Mighty Bull one more time. And we're going to head to the Manhattan Bridge tonight. So I think we're going to have some really nice views yet again. Hey, Shadow King, what's up? Says I'm thinking of opening a Roth IRA and only buying the S&P 500. Is that a good idea? Well, we can't tell you, what to do or what not to do, but I'll give you a book recommendation if you want to learn a little bit more about that stuff. It is called Common Sense Investing by John Bogle or Jack Bogle. Now, Jack Bogle was the founder of the Vanguard Group, and I think you could argue that Jack Bogle probably did more for the average retail investor than anybody on Wall Street, probably second to William J. O'Neill, who unfortunately passed away today. We announced that at the beginning of the live stream. But if you look at all the statistics and if you look at the data, the S&P 500 tends to outperform the vast majority of actively managed portfolios from mutual funds and hedge funds. So I think it's a good idea. I can't advise you what to do, but my retirement, the vast majority is indexed to the S&P 500 myself. Hey, Ed T. Good to see you, Ed. Welcome. Brody23 is here. Welcome, welcome. Rob H. Connor. I think one word would be inflation. Hey, Lemonade says hello, Tom and team. Susanna Q4 is here. Welcome. So if you look all the way down the street, this is actually the home of the Federal Reserve. Right here, this big building right there. We're on the corner of Liberty Street. Now, Friday is going to be a really big day as it relates kind of to the Federal Reserve, because we're getting the job numbers out. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is going to release the jobs numbers for May. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the live stream. But yeah, Shadow Kings is awesome. I'll look into that. Thank you. Yeah, it's a great book. And honestly, you could probably get it used if you're on a budget, right? The Amazon bookstore in the used section is, I mean, like an invaluable resource. You can get some really, really good used books for like $1.20, $2. I mean, it's, you know, amazing. Obviously, you have to pay for shipping and all that, but, you know, the information's out there. I think that's a good book to start off with. But also, I would read How to Make Money in Stocks by William J. O'Neill. That was one of the first real investment books that I've read. It's an Investor's Business Daily icon right there. Passing Pine Street, right on Trinity Church. So I forget who asked the question. I believe there's some sort of finance high school right here. I never knew that. But maybe it's right here, because this is 100 Broadway. And this is the Trinity Church, right here at the very end of Wall Street. Hey, Lena Sandoval is here. Good to see you. Smarty Pants, welcome. Yeah, Sparks Carnival's used books also benefit from prior reading highlights. Yeah, I have a ton of old books that have like all different highlights, underlines in it. It's kind of cool. Hey, Meld, what's up? Says Tom, you're so close to 30K. Yes, that is wild. I can't even believe that. Never in a million years would I have thought almost 30,000 people would be interested in these walks and talks about the financial markets, but I appreciate it. And I have a lot of fun doing it too. So long as I'm enjoying it and hanging out with you guys, having a nice chat, I'll continue to do it. I really enjoy it. And I also enjoy everybody's company here. So this is 2 Wall Street. I'm trying to look for that finance high school that one of our viewers was talking about. But in the meantime, I'll give you guys one quick look of Trinity Church, very famous here on Wall Street. Anthony Williams is here. What's up? Tug Carter says, Tom, good to see you. Welcome. Hawaii, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Since we're here, we might as well see the very front of the New York Stock Exchange.
I have, yeah. I really like it.
You can kind of tell everybody's coming back from their Memorial Day festivities, going back to their apartments and whatnot. This is the back entrance to the New York Stock Exchange on the corner of Wall and New Street. And then you can see George Washington and Federal Hall up front. Let me just get around the corner here. It's windy out tonight. I'm not sure if you guys could tell. We do have the microphone, so hopefully that'll dampen the vast majority of it, but I think they turn the lights off at the stock exchange. But you could still see the American flag right on the New York Stock Exchange. It looks amazing. Justin S. says, did they have a Memorial Day parade in New York? I'm not too sure about that, actually. I don't know. I would assume so, but I don't think so. I haven't seen it. I was walking around the city all day today. I mean, Central Park was so packed today. It was amazing. It seemed like everybody had a really good day. But we'll dive right into this. Obviously, tomorrow is Tuesday. It is May 30th tomorrow. So as Sparks Carnival told us, Hewlett-Packard Enterprises is reporting earnings tomorrow. Also, HP and U-Haul Holdings is reporting. I think that's going to give us a nice proxy into the housing market, perhaps, with U-Haul, with moving. And then a little bit later in the day, we're going to hear from S&P CoreLogic as they release its Case-Shiller National Home Price Index for March. And I think this is really going to be a number that not only the Federal Reserve is going to be paying close attention to as it relates to their reaction to the number as they use the number to set monetary policy. But if you take a poll of many economists on Wall Street, the consensus estimate is for a 1.5% year-over-year decline in the price of homes. That is after a 2% increase in February. Home prices slid for 7 consecutive months before rising 0.2% in February. Now, the index is 4.9% below its record high from last June, and this is actually to be expected, right? This is to be expected that housing prices nationally are starting to cool a little bit because real estate is very dependent on interest rates. Very, very highly dependent on interest rates. And if you think about all of 2021 and about halfway through 2022, well, money was cheap. Liquidity was ample and flowing through the financial system. And many people were getting mortgage rates that were sub 4%, right? Many people, if you were lucky, depending on your point of view on it, got a 30-year fixed at maybe 3%. Maybe if you were able to refinance your debt, you could have rates as low as, 2.5%, 2.9%. But now it's a whole different story. We just said at the beginning of this live stream tonight that the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage, man, it is really windy. I think we may have to duck out and turn down this side street. It's like 50-mile-an-hour winds down here. The average 30-year fixed-rate mortgage right now is 7%. We are now back at a 7 handle on a 30-year fixed. Obviously, conventional mortgages, maybe a little bit higher interest rates. Hey, Daryl, what's up? This is Hey Tom, have a safe Memorial Day. Thank you, Daryl. I wish the same for you, my friend. Thank you. Sparks Carnival says T-bills and investment grade. Corporate bonds are increasingly looking more attractive. Yeah, there was a really good article in Barron's today. I'm not sure if anybody was able to get it, but it was an article exactly about Sparks Carnival's comment about the attractiveness of T-bills, especially short-term treasuries. And this sort of goes back to the discussion we've been having about the very famous acronym on Wall Street, TINA, T-I-N-A, which stands for There Is No Alternative. Well, now there actually is a pretty nice alternative. We just reviewed a 1-year Treasury. U.S. Treasury is yielding above 5% now. If you look at the 1 month, I think for a brief period of time last week, everybody, the 1 month Treasury was yielding over 6%. Obviously, that's annualized interest rate, but that's significant. That is very, very significant. So to your point, this may be competing with equities because investors may be thinking to themselves, Well, I remember how I felt through COVID, watching my stock portfolio crash 30% in 2 weeks, literally 2 weeks. Then going through this turbulent market where we've been going sideways in the S&P 500 for 2 years. Well, maybe I should just go on Treasury Direct or go into my brokerage account and buy some US Treasuries and get a near 5% risk-free rate of return on my money. I think that's looking very, very attractive to investors now. Now, this is a really cool plaza. This has an amazing view of Deutsche Bank. This is a little bit of a different view. I showed you guys Deutsche Bank last night on the live stream from Wall Street. This is the view from the opposite side. This is 60 Wall Street. You can kind of tell it's completely empty. The building is vacant now. But still a nice area nonetheless. I think they probably did a big remodel on a lot of these office buildings because the lobbies look a lot different than what I remember from working down here. Hey, Elijah B is here. Says hello, Tom, and stay safe. Good to see you, Elijah. Welcome. You know, I wanted to ask you guys something. Hey, the Garlic says I work here. Garlic, good to see you, my friend. Anthony says, my wife asked you, can you take a tour of 20 Pine Collection Apartments? Anthony, I actually can do that for you, sir. If you send me an email or something like that, I will hook you up with that, 100%. Now, I gotta ask you guys something. I gotta ask you guys a very important question. Because I'm seeing this trend, particularly with big tech companies, specifically Mark Zuckerberg at Meta, is making a big bet, right, on virtual reality. Now, there's a big difference between virtual reality and augmented reality. I think we all know the difference, right? But I was reading, not the cover story of Barron's, but it was one of the first articles as you open the front cover. And it was about the new announcement. Now, it's alleged, right? Apple didn't come out and announce it themselves, but I should say it's an alleged announcement that they are going to be coming out with their own sort of Oculus-style headset. Did anybody hear about that? So at their next, I think it's the Apple Demo Day, they're going, or allegedly, they're supposed to be announcing this new Apple headset that is totally immersive, right? So you wear these big clunky goggles on your face, and then it has an external battery pack that you wear around your hip. Now, I mean, I am a very big bull. Let me just give you my position, and I want to know what you guys think, if you'd ever use something like this. I am very bullish on augmented reality. I'm not so hot on the virtual reality, right? I find it very hard to believe that I would ever wear a massive headset and sort of play around in a virtual world. However, what I would do, if there's some sort of, glasses that are very contemporary or like contact lenses or something that you could wear that's very discreet, that can project data in front of your face or something like that, more like on the holographic side, I would use that. And plus, this new Apple headset is supposedly going to be priced at $3,000 a unit. So my question to you guys is, do you think this new trend of virtual reality and the metaverse, investing billions of dollars into not only the hardware but the software, do you think that's going to pay off, and would you ever use this? I want to know. I don't want to be on the wrong side of history here, but I don't think I would ever use these big clunky headsets. That's just me. Now, I could be wrong. Yeah, Carlos, this is the Federal Reserve. We're looking at it right here. This big fortress of a building is the Federal Reserve. Sparks Carnival says I would definitely use it. Hawaii says I still have the Samsung Oculus unused. They gave it to me years ago when I bought the phone, and I just never wanted to use it. Interesting. Hey, Ken Brockton is here, welcome. Yeah, Stephen Bates says don't need it. Ken says, I think VR will eventually become part of all of our lives. JM says, no, yeah, you were right. So maybe we're a little bit split here in the chat. But I don't know, I think the technology needs to progress to a point where you don't need to wear a big clunky headset on your face. I just think you'd look a little bit goofy walking around. I don't know. Hey, Bill says it'll be a cool demo, but won't be the way AR impacts people's lives. Isabella Mars says, I'm skeptical about the usefulness of this product at the moment. The AI assistant features are much more useful tools. Troy Atman says, like you said, if it's a contact lens, which I'm assuming will eventually be, yeah, then I would probably use it. Agreed. Hey, Hang with Mark Mom says this would be great for military training due to very low latency. Now, it's Hang with Mark Mom. It's funny you said that. So at my previous job, I was actually working with some pretty big companies as they deployed Google glasses. So the product, I believe, was called the Enterprise 2 Google Glass. And a lot of QSR restaurants, so for those of you who don't know, QSR stands for Quick Service Restaurant. They would actually use Google Glasses for training new employees. So let's say if you're a new trainee at KFC, right? They give you a pair of the goggles and it would display, in front of the employee's face exactly what you need to do. How many minutes do you need to keep the chicken in the deep fryer? You get the picture. Also, Boeing, ticker symbol BA, used the product, or they do use the product right now for a lot of their aviation mechanics for training and troubleshooting. So let's say, for example, if you have one of the senior mechanics is out sick and a junior mechanic is filling in the spot and you need a second opinion, well, you could put on the Google glasses and it can automatically beam that photo to your senior engineer and they could help troubleshoot it remotely. So I think, to hang with Mark's mom's point, that is a real use case. That is a good use case. But I think that's more augmented reality instead of virtual reality. So again, I'm very bullish augmented reality. I'm just not too sure about the whole virtual stuff. All right, this is 130 William, one of my favorite new developments in the city. Right here on William Street. Yeah, Hawaii says, I could see it used for training but not daily living use. Ed T says, I could see some good use with them in many ways. Michael Joseph says, advanced drone flying uses low latency VR to fly drones. So, would it be safe to say, let me just cross the street so I can get you guys over here. I think the Manhattan Bridge is going to be like a wind tunnel tonight, but we'll do it anyway. So is it safe to say you guys are seeing more enterprise applications as opposed to consumer? So when I say enterprise, that would be more of a B2B product, business to business sale, as opposed to B2C, business consumer. That seems to be the consensus here on the stream. I think so, but Apple seems to be developing this virtual reality headset that's going to be priced at $3,000 a unit as a consumer product. I don't know. I mean, maybe it'll work. I just think right now the price point of $3,000 is a little steep for somebody to spend on a headset. I don't know. We'll see. Hey, Julia M. Good to see you. Happy Memorial Day to you. We are now at Fulton Street. This is one of my favorite views of the World Trade Center right here. Bill, what's up? Mark says our country can definitely use this new Apple one, if anything, but training purposes for the armed forces. Yeah, so maybe like a government use, enterprise. I'm just going to call it enterprise use. I think you're right. I would be more bullish on the technology for corporate use, enterprise use, as opposed to consumers. I think a consumer product such as this is a little bit more for like gamers I'm not sure if anybody that is not in the gaming industry may use this. Sabrina Ferris is not yet. We will get there. I agree with Tom. The price is way too high. Now, what do you guys think about this? Isabella Morris's HoloLens is already successful in the enterprise sector, and it's augmented reality. Yeah, I mean, I sold a lot of the Google glasses. I was actually in charge of that. There wasn't a lot of activity. I'm not going to say a lot. There wasn't a lot of interest, but there were some big companies using it, like a lot of the quick service restaurants, and Boeing used it for sure. But I'm going to throw you guys a curveball. I'm going to throw you guys a curveball as to why I may be a little bit bearish on the whole virtual reality headset game. And do you guys want to know why? I think you're going to be surprised with my answer as we walk past Pace University. I think you're going to be really surprised with my answer. And my answer is this. My answer is Elon Musk. Does anybody know the big breaking news that happened just this past week? Anybody know? Somebody dropped their AirPods. That sucks. Does anybody know the big breaking news as it relates to Elon Musk this past week that I think could totally disrupt the virtual reality / augmented reality space in a way? Now, if you had guessed, Neuralink gained FDA approval to start doing human clinical trials, then you would be correct. So this past week, the FDA granted Elon Musk's Neuralink permission to essentially run clinical trials on humans as opposed to the clinical trials that they were running on primates. There was a really, really good article. Here's the dormitories, by the way, at Pace University. Really nice, all brand new, all redone. Now, there was a really good article on the Wall Street Journal about this. And I was reading it and I was sort of like laughing to myself. I was reading it at breakfast and I was literally chuckling to myself out loud. People must have thought I was like a crazy person. But one of the main reasons why the FDA has been hesitant to grant Neuralink with the FDA approval to go ahead with clinical trials in humans is because they had to euthanize, unfortunately, put down, kill, however you want to frame it, a lot of the primates that they were doing the chip implants into, because the chip implants were overheating and they were causing these really, really egregious infections in the animals. So there's been a ton of R&D, research and development, that has been done into these chips to fix that problem. And now I guess the microchips don't really overheat when it's injected into your head anymore. so that's good. Yeah. That's good news. All right, this is 8 Spruce Street, which is a really beautiful building here in downtown Lower Manhattan. They are ultra luxury apartments, and I believe this is the home of the Roots Group, Questlove. I think he has a really nice apartment right in here on 8 Spruce Street. Beautiful views overlooking the Brooklyn Bridge and all of Lower Manhattan. But yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on that, right? Because let's say if, let's fast forward 5 years, okay? Let's be conservative, let's fast forward 5 years. They work out all the kinks with the Neuralink. It's not overheating and it's not exploding in your skull, okay? I think people would be very open to doing that. And that automatically means you're a supercomputer automatically, right? So why would I need to wear this big clunky device on my head when I could just ingrain something into my skull that will essentially make me, in a way, like a supercomputer? Richard Vogel says hard pass on the chip. Yeah, a lot of people are hard passing on it right now, and I get it. It is kind of weird. Brad's brain says Elon is usually right, but they can test this stuff Yeah. Well, I mean, at some point, Brad, they kind of need to, if you're going to sell this to humans and start chipping humans, you're going to need to do clinical trials on people. But no, I get it. It's very sci-fi. Like we are quite literally living in a science fiction movie. It is very weird. Yeah, Tom from Midtown says one step closer to singularity. It's crazy. Joel PM says when AI takes my job, I think I'll sign up for a Neuralink. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting how all this technology competes with one another. Stephen Bates says only dumb people would put it into themselves. I don't know. I mean, Elon Musk is a pretty smart guy. I wouldn't say he's dumb. But I definitely understand your position, right? It's a new technology. I don't think I would do it. Who knows? Troy Atman says you have to get it if you want to keep up with anybody. Yeah, it'll probably be hooked up to ChatGPT. Yeah, we'll see. It's really crazy. It's really, really wild. But anyway, the article I was reading as it relates to this, this new Apple VR headset that's coming out at a $3,000 price point. The play is not really for the hardware sales, right? It's for the software sales. And, let's say if you have, 100 million iPhone users, right? We'll just take a pool of 100 million people. And 10% of that 100 million decide to opt in for this, virtual reality style headset. Well, what is going to be the incremental spend at the app stores on a subscription basis, right? So a SaaS basis. So I think there was a particular analyst, maybe at Bank of America, that was sort of saying, look, over the next 10 years, this could be $1 billion in additional ARR for the company, right? Annual recurring revenue. So we'll see. I mean, I think another big point about it is the app development ecosystem. You're going to need to attract developers to make applications for this product. And I think Apple has done a pretty good job of that in the past, obviously. Hey, Brendan O'Brien says that's probably the real reason Elon bought Twitter, metric/human behavior data for software. That's actually a really good point. Let me read that again. Brendan O'Brien says that's probably the real reason Elon bought Twitter. Tons of metrics and human behavioral data. For software, Tesla also really about behavior. Yeah, Tesla is a software company, and that is why, if you think about the bigger picture. So this is the on-ramp to the Brooklyn Bridge. We did that already. We're actually going to go to the on-ramp for the Manhattan Bridge. So we have a little bit of a ways to go. But it should be a pretty clear night. But, if you think about autonomous driving, right? Self-driving. Tesla is light years ahead away from every other auto OEM, right? So if you think about all the other auto OEMs out there, Tesla has by far the most data on essentially human behavior and just road miles in general. Now, I'm very critical of Cathie Wood, who is the founder of ARK Invest, but there actually was a really compelling piece that was sent to me a long time. I think it was actually co-authored by Ron Barron. And Ron Barron is one of the greatest investors of our lifetime. He is the CEO and founder of the Barron funds, the mutual funds that have consistently outperformed the market. I think it's a publicly available document, so if you just type in Tesla, Ron Barron, and Cathie Wood, it sort of talks about the exponential growth curve of all of the data that Tesla has collected over the years. Hey, Emanuel, this is Tom where you go to the bridge. We're headed there now. It's a little windy though. Can you guys hear the wind in the microphone? The wind is blowing probably 20 miles an hour. It's crazy. I did not expect this wind. We are now in front of the courthouse. These are all the major and main courthouses in Lower Manhattan. This is City Hall Station. You can get the 456 JZ trains right here. We might as well cross while we have 2 seconds left. and maybe we won't get stuck in the middle here. If we do, it's all right. Now, I think these stairs to this courthouse is where they filmed the famous scene from the Joker movie that is yet to come out. I think it is coming out. Isn't Lady Gaga cast in that movie as well? Does anybody know? I saw this on Twitter. Somebody came down here and got some footage. I believe this is where they shot it. So everybody is stacked up on the stairs here. Or maybe it was those stairs over there. I don't know, anybody know? Hey, Trippin' Music says, hey mate, how are you? I'm doing good, man. Long time no see. Hopefully you're doing really well. Kenneth says, Tom, I hate to disagree with you, but in the next 5 years, Tesla and the electric car manufacturers are going to get smashed. In what way do you think? It's okay to disagree. I'm curious as to your point. And in smashed in what way? You think just the increasing level of competition from other auto manufacturers, or sort of what are your thoughts there? Now, to your point, to sort of play, I guess, devil's advocate, we got some data out of China as it relates to exports of EVs. I think if we walk across Pearl Street, you guys will be able to see a really good view of the World Trade Center. I'll turn around and show you. But last month, there was 1,700,000 was the number of cars in the first quarter exported by China, beating out previously number one Japan's 950,000 exports. So China's catching up, overtaking Japan for exporting vehicles. This is an awesome shot, by the way, of the one and only World Trade Center. Hey, Cooking Bro is here. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate you being here, and happy Memorial Day to you. We are right outside of all the courthouses here. I don't. Golden City, I do not. Ken Brockton says Tesla is losing market share, and they've recently partnered with Ford to provide access to their tech charging stations. Ken, that's a good point. I read that, and that was one of my main concerns with this whole EV push, because the United States really doesn't have the infrastructure yet to support a total conversion to EVs across the board. It just doesn't exist. I think if people are arguing that we do, I think that's just disingenuous. And one of my main concerns was in relation to the charging infrastructure. So for example, if you have a Tesla, and then you have a Ford, and then you have a Lucid, and then you have, all these other EVs from Toyota and the like, if we don't have a universal standard in terms of charging, this thing is never going to work, right? The reason why it works with regular vehicles, gas-powered vehicles, is because it's a universal standard. You go to the gas station, you fill up the tank, and you dip, right? So I don't know. I think actually the government should get together with all of these auto manufacturers and say, look, it has to be a single set standard for the charging ports, or it's never going to work. And maybe just pick one company to roll it all out. But I did see that, yeah, Ford will be using Tesla's charging. Anybody here in the chat own a Tesla by chance? Because every time we ask this question, the group is about split 50-50 as it relates to the people who own Teslas. Many of them say their build quality is actually rather poor. Joel PM says hydrogen has potential. Ed says, I really like Teslas and EVs as a whole, but this discussion is exclusive to first world. Yeah, that's true. That is very true. And I think the infrastructure works better in smaller countries. So for example, like it would probably work a lot better in South Korea as opposed to the US, for example, because the United States is freaking massive, okay? You can't have a Tesla if you live in, flyover state. It's just that you're gonna be able to just drive around your town and that's it. You can't do a cross-country road trip on a Tesla, at least not right now. Yeah, Sparks Carnival, that's true. ChargePoint releases earnings on Thursday. You're right about that. Hey, Connor says, I went on vacation in April in South Carolina and I rented an EV that wasn't a Tesla. It was so annoying finding charging ports constantly. It's completely turned me off to EVs. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point. And so that's sort of the main argument, right? If you live in suburbia, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just making a point to say, how do you expect somebody who may live on a farm in Kansas to be able to operate with an EV right now? In some small towns in America, you have to drive 30 miles to go to the grocery store. I think this guy's getting pulled over. Oh, no, he's not. But yeah, I think you guys are right. I think we may be putting the cart before the horse here. And I think we should focus on building out the infrastructure to support all of this stuff. But obviously, as with anything, this has been politicized to no end. And, if you give any little bit of pushback on the EV idea, they throw every sort of radical name in the book at you. Betos' Tesla beat Corolla's, Toyota Corolla 2023. Yogi says, when I was in Tennessee, I had to drive 15 minutes one way to get wireless internet on my phone. Yeah, I mean, the United States is a big, big country, man. Golden City says, Tom, cars with closed source software, and you need a license each year, just like Windows. Z Collection says there's not enough minerals to keep making these EV batteries. So that's a little bit of a myth. Oh, that's a little bit of a myth. I do understand your point, and I actually do agree with you in many ways. Hold on, let me cross here. All right, hold that thought for 1 second. I just want to explain where we are. Guys, so we are now in Chinatown, okay? We are on the corner of Mott Street. This is Chinatown. We're gonna have a nice walk through Chinatown as we head up to Manhattan Bridge, which is gonna be fun to walk over. I'm excited to show you guys the views of Lower Manhattan from the Manhattan Bridge. But right now, this is Chinatown. Look at this. Look at all the people hanging out on the fire escapes here. That's an awesome shot. Look at that. This is like a classic, New York City scene right here. It's like something out of a movie. Love that. So you guys are making some good points. There was a really good book that just came out as it relates to all of these rare earths that are required to essentially build these EVs and the batteries. Now the problem is a lot of those precious metals and rare earths come out of places like the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where there's quite literally, okay, and this isn't me being, bombastic, there's literally, child labor going on there and slave labor. So when all these companies talk about, ESG, this and all this other alphabet soup to be an environmentalist, I think it's very important and critical. Okay, I'm not making accusations because most of the lithium that Tesla uses actually comes from Australia. But I think if you're really worried about the environment and social governance and justice, you have to be damn sure we're not getting these rare earths from these places that are quite literally using slave and child labor in 2023. To me, that is just totally hypocritical and unacceptable. But unfortunately, that's where a lot of these rare earths come from, especially cobalt, nickel, and the like. So I think that's important. This is one of my favorite streets to walk down in Chinatown. It's really beautiful with all of these paper lanterns that are hung from the ceiling. Really beautiful. But I'll cross the street because this is actually one of my favorite murals down here. Look at the detail on this, guys. Isn't that awesome? Look at that. Now, this doesn't do it justice because I promise you it looks 10 times better during the day when the sunlight is hitting it, but it's still absolutely gorgeous. And if you come down to Chinatown, you're gonna see a lot of this stuff. You know, obviously a lot of rich Chinese culture, a lot of great mini supermarkets, you know, Asian supermarkets here, a lot of good dim sum places, and a lot of good creative artwork too down here in Chinatown. Hey, Dusty Cole's here. Happy Memorial Day, sir. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these live streams about 5 days per week, starting at 8:30 p.m., exploring New York City and Miami and talking about the financial markets. Now, I think you guys already know what I'm going to say without saying it. These fire escapes are unbelievable here. So beautiful. You can actually kind of hear some of the music coming from the club over there. Isn't that beautiful here? I know, Yogi, I saw a rat too. It actually crawled right under here. I'm not sure if you guys picked up on that. I didn't want to call it out, but Yogi has got the rat eye. Yeah, Joseph Hardaway says this street looks perfect, like off of a movie set. It really does. We'll take a moment to enjoy the architecture on these buildings. Once again, the fire escapes are like my all-time favorite. Now, the last thing we'll say about EVs, but I think this is important, this is a good conversation, right? Because whether you like it or not, it's a big topic in the financial markets. Here's another gorgeous mural here. I do not have a car, you guys know this, but I think if I ever were to buy a car, I want to get the Tesla where it has those gull wing doors. Is that the Tesla Model X? Maybe for those Tesla bulls in the chat. Hey, YK, so just left the city, beautiful vibes, not as packed as Saturday. Yeah, you're right. You know, I think a lot of people tend to head out east to Long Island, particularly South Shore Long Island and the Hamptons for Memorial Day. The city was actually kind of quiet, but to your point, I was walking around Central Park today, and Sheep Meadow, Central Park Sheep Meadow is absolutely packed. It was an awesome sight. I posted a cool video on my Twitter. If you guys want to check that out, you can just look at Walks Wall Street. Marketing videography is great use value compared to the Y. Sparks Carnival, Snowflake got clocked, ticker symbol SNOW, last week. Bad time to be in data and cloud computing. No, I just think that, well, Snowflake, first of all, that was probably one of the most overhyped, overvalued IPOs in history. I don't think it's a bad time to be in big data at all. Now, speaking of cloud computing, speaking of SaaS, software as a service, we are going to hear next week, and I know Sparks Carnival already knows this, but for those of you who don't, we're going to hear from our good friend Mark Benioff next week. Salesforce, ticker symbol CRM. I believe they are going to be reporting earnings. And Salesforce has actually been recovering because they now have, I believe, some activist investors who've bought a sizable stake in the company, and they're essentially coming in and saying, look, you got to trim the fat in these organizations. And that's what we've been seeing over the past year. We've been talking about this quite substantially on the stream, where over the last 2 years, where the Federal Reserve and the federal government essentially bombed the market with ample amounts of liquidity, people got lazy, corporations got bloated, and suffered from extreme amounts of corporate bloat. That has since compressed margins at a lot of these software companies, because if you think about when the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, sucking liquidity out of the market, crushes demand. So you have all of this demand crush with all of these newly, freshly hired employees from the pandemic. Well, that's going to kill your gross margins. So now that's why you've been seeing so many layoffs in the tech sector, particularly with Meta, with Amazon, Salesforce as well, went through a big round of layoffs. So this is the trimming and slimming down part. And I think that's why you've been seeing a big rally in enterprise software and SaaS. Because the board of directors or even activist investors are coming in there and saying, look, this cannot go on any longer. Oh, yeah. You got to start trimming some of the fat. Real quick, this is one of my favorite places here to eat in Chinatown, everybody. So if you're visiting New York for the first time, or if you're thinking about moving here, please come to 61 Mott Street. This is called Ming Wong Restaurant. This place is phenomenal. I'll give you guys a quick look at the menu, but this place is absolutely unreal, this place. Hey, Vincent, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Hey, FredX, welcome to Chinatown. Good to see you. Keith Walker says your conversation for tonight has been very interesting. Thank you, Keith. I think you guys are what keep it interesting. So thank you for being here. I'll point out restaurant number 2. We haven't been here in a while. So this is 456. This is 69 Mott Street, new Shanghai restaurant. This is probably close number 1 or a tie for number 1 with the other place. I always come here whenever I'm working down in the area. So I would say this. Let me get up here so you can see a little bit better. Once again, restaurant choice. Actually, you know what? This is choice number 1. 456, new Shanghai restaurant. Okay, if you want to come here yourself, just type in 69 Mott Street in Google Maps. You'll get right here. And then if you want to come back the next day, go to 61 Mott Street, where you can eat at Ming Wong Restaurant. And these are actually very, very affordable. Okay, so if you're visiting Manhattan and you've recently eaten out in Midtown Manhattan and got your face ripped off there by the prices, you can come down here, where I think the food's actually a lot better, in my opinion. And it's really affordable too. And it's very fun. I think it's more fun than Midtown Manhattan because it's different vibe, especially during, this is a really nice bike. Love that bike. It's so cool. I kind of like how it looks rusted, like a very rustic, sort of looks like something out of a movie. Anyway, yeah, so those are my 2 recommendations. And all the way in the distance, you can see the One Vanderbilt building. Hey, Matthew M. This is Tom with big tech layoffs. Do you see some jobs coming back? Where would the new jobs go? With AI, these jobs will come back. Yeah, so I think it's just a market cycle, right? And the problem is a lot of people, including myself, by the way, I'm not excluded from this. I was born in 1995, to give you guys some perspective there. But again, not to sort of sound like a broken record, but ever since the 2008 financial crisis, we've introduced QE 1, 2, 3, 4, and infinity, right? Which has sort of perpetuated and elongated a huge, massive super cycle in the business cycle. Ever since the lows of the 2008, we've just, especially in the tech sector, it's just taken off like a bat out of hell. And a lot of this big tech boom we've seen in the United States has been propped up on ample amounts of cheap liquidity, or I should say cheap debt, right? We've talked about zombie companies before, and you'd be surprised to find out there's actually tons and tons and tons of these zombie-like companies in the United States, where their operations are solely funded on the acquisition of new debt to pay off their existing debt. Now, that business model doesn't really work anymore when interest rates have gone up by 500 basis points over the course of the last 18 months, right? So, with artificially suppressed rates, it's sort of perpetuated a business cycle. So it's conditioned people to think that it's the end of the world and it's total Armageddon whenever companies go through rounds of layoffs, right? This is just pent up, and we've been kicking the can down the road for a while. You know, the tides are going to turn, right? The tides will turn, okay? And companies will start hiring again. Demand will start to pick up again. It's not like this is the end, right? This is just a business cycle playing out. And in my view, again, in myself included, we've sort of been conditioned over the past couple years to think things only go up, to think cheap money is going to last forever. But that is no longer the case. Interest rates are actually normalizing. Real quick, this is actually the Manhattan Bridge, so we made it, guys. So we're on the corner of Canal Street and Bowery, I believe. So this is the on-ramp to the Manhattan Bridge. We have the lights, so we're going to cross. Then we're going to make a right in order to get on the pedestrian walkway. Now, I want to warn you, the wind may be too extreme on the Manhattan Bridge, but the views from the Manhattan Bridge are going to be unbelievable tonight because it is a super clear night. Look at the moon. The moon is totally out in full blast. So I'm really excited to take you guys on the Manhattan Bridge. If you want to walk over here yourself, just remember, if you're a tourist, do not walk up this way. This is cars only. Okay, you will get stuck there. You have to cross at this little crosswalk, follow the path, and then follow the graffiti and the garbage, and it'll lead you to the promised land, which is the Manhattan Bridge pedestrian and bike lanes. All right, so let's get started. Hey, Joan K., good to see you. Thanks for joining us on this Memorial Day. Hope you're well. Hey, Eric Tate is here. Hey, Eric. Good to see you, sir. Meld. Valerie says there's a Canal Street in New Orleans, aka NOLA. Didn't know that. It's actually kind of cool. Yeah, Canal Street in Manhattan will take you across the entire island. So it'll take you all the way across to the tunnel to get out to New Jersey, and it'll take you to the Manhattan Bridge. Bill Rollins is here. What's up, Bill? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, Bill, we just sort of talked about the main stuff that's going to be happening this week on Wall Street. We talked about the continuation of cybersecurity earnings. Obviously, last week we heard from Palo Alto Networks. This week we're going to hear from Okta, Zscaler, and CrowdStrike. I think if I had to pick the best out of those three names, it would definitely be Zscaler, ticker symbol ZS. But as you know, the leader in cybersecurity by far, in my opinion, is Palo Alto Networks. All right, so what you'll notice here is the bridge is opening up. And right under here where it looks really, really dark, and you see some of the graffiti, this is actually where the subway goes through. So if you remembered from when we were walking across the Brooklyn Bridge, there's no subway. But the Manhattan Bridge is very loud and noisy because the subway rolls and roars right past here. Speaking of it, it's coming right now. We got the D train, Manhattan-bound D train coming. I think someone just threw a piece of trash at us. All right, but here's the first amazing view of the night. You got a good view of the very top of the World Trade Center. You know, Elliott Wave Review, that's a really good question. Elliott Wave Review says, Tom, do you believe you are living the best version of yourself, or do you think you're falling short? I think I'm living the best version of myself. I think I am. Generally speaking, and this really started when I was in college, I just made the decision to, if you really want to just do the things you want to do, you cannot have any type of, thought about what other people are going to think, or your friends are going to troll you, or, people are going to make fun of you, feel a fear of failure type thing. You just got to go for it, dude, because life is so short. I mean, if you think about it, I'm 28 years old right now. If you're lucky, if you're extremely, extremely blessed, you're going to be on this earth till 80, maybe. And that is like if you're really, really lucky. So, I don't even really have that much time left here if you really think about it, right, when you're young. So, nobody's going to remember anything you did anyway in 200 years. So you should just be full steam ahead, just completely ignore all of all the people that, are not supportive of you. And you should just absolutely be an animal and literally do everything that you want, regardless of what anybody says. All right, here is stop number 2. Look at this. Really unique shot. Look at that. You can see all the way to the World Trade Center. And the streets of Chinatown are completely empty tonight. You could actually see all the way to the ground. You can see some of the markets. These are some of the open fish markets and open fruit markets that are here in Chinatown. And I think if you ever have a career in sales, particularly, early on, I would suggest it, because you're going to develop a very specific callus to rejection, where if you do it long enough, you're just going to become numb to it, and that is like an invincible superpower. If you can become just totally numb to rejection and failure and what people think of you, or trolls, right? Just people that are nasty. It's just like the most freeing thing ever. And it's sort of like if you run over one of those, what is it called? One of those magic mushrooms in Super Mario, and then you just blow past everybody. That's exactly what it's like. And that's what it's going to do for your business career, your personal life, and much more. So here's another good view of the beautiful One World Trade Center. You know what, guys? This actually looks like a brand new development. Let me try to zoom in and see what street this is on, so maybe we could Google this. I can't really see it, but this looks to be some sort of a new development. Hey, Melissa 2087 says, Tom, I work in customer service now at a travel agency. Not much better than sales, but I do enjoy what I do now. Love that. Love that. God bless. Yeah, Mike C says Elon Musk has a huge tolerance for fear and failure. And I think it's all about perspective too. And I tweeted about this week, or this weekend. I think I retweeted somebody else's tweet. But the tweet went something like this. It is more valuable, or I should say it is more valuable to be born in the United States than to randomly hit the lottery and win like $1 million. Assuming you can't come to the United States. So the point is, regardless of who you are, okay, number one, if you were so lucky enough just to be born in the United States, you literally have hit the jackpot of all jackpots. I mean, it's sort of like, this is the way I kind of explain it. This is an awesome view, by the way, of the World Trade Center. It's sort of like playing in the NBA, right? There's how many, hundreds of thousands of youth basketball players that dream of playing in the NBA. Less than 1% of them actually do. Being born in the United States is like getting an automatic bid to the NBA, the NFL, whatever you want to call it. This is it. Okay, this is the business epicenter of the world, where you could build whatever you want. There's no limitations and there's no limit of opportunity. It's an endless stream of opportunities in perpetuity forever in this country. And if you believe that, it'll be true for you. And if you don't believe that, and if you complain about it and you bitch about it, and you say, oh, my life is not good because of Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Ted Cruz or whatever, insert freak politician here, that is also going to be a reality for you. But if you can crowd out all the noise, I actually want to give you guys a shot of this. This actually looks really nice. Look at that. Look at how unique this is. All this graffiti on the rooftop. That's awesome. So in essence, whatever you believe to be true is true. If you think there's an endless stream of opportunity and you have a positive outlook and you want to add value to people and you want to network like crazy and you want to increase your talent stack, well, then you're going to be very wealthy and you're going to do very well. And it's not only about money. You're going to be very successful in your personal life. You're going to have a lot of friends. You're going to live a healthy life. This is an awesome view of the Brooklyn Bridge. Now, you could actually see the Brooklyn Bridge, and I believe that's the Verrazano Bridge, I want to say. Yeah, I think that's the Verrazano Bridge all the way in the distance, too. Hey, Sean, thank you so much for your donation. You didn't have to do that, but I appreciate it. It says, can you recommend any good books for somebody getting into tech sales? It's actually a really good question. A book for somebody getting into tech sales. Tech sales specifically? All right, I'll give you a good book recommendation. It's not necessarily for tech sales, but it will help you out in tech sales. I would read Mark Benioff's book. I'm blanking on the name of the book, but it's a fantastic book. If you just Google Mark Benioff's book, you'll have it there, and it's all about how he created Salesforce, and it gives a real big in-depth history about how he worked under Steve Jobs and how he creates frameworks and systems to create one of the greatest enterprise software companies in the history of the world. A Trailblazer, that's what it's called. So check that out. It is called Trailblazer by Mark Benioff, obviously the founder, CEO, well, now co-CEO of Salesforce. Just so happened to be reporting earnings this week. We'll cover that here on the stream. And then I think sales skills are transferable, right? You don't need to be a full stack software engineer to sell telecom or sell software. So I would read all of the classics, right? Like How to Win Friends and Influence People. I would study that book religiously. What is that? The Dale Carnegie book, right? I would consume any type of sales material by Brian Tracy. Because essentially at the end of the day, sales is all about relationship building with customers and clients, especially the further up you go, right? So if you want to start off, I'll give you guys a quick hierarchy of the tech sales world or the sales world in general. You usually start off in a BDR or an SDR position, which is a sales development representative or a business development representative. And then if you're good, you'll be promoted to account executive, which that is a customer-facing, deal-closing position where you can make a lot of money if you're at the right company. But the goal is to move up the stack as much as possible, as fast as possible, to get to enterprise sales, right? So you could be an enterprise account executive, an enterprise account manager, in which case you'll be dealing with very big corporations. So you could think about publicly traded companies, Fortune 500, Fortune 50, Global 2000 customers. And this is actually a little bit easier technically because instead of being a very transactional sale, so if you work in small to medium-sized business as an account executive, the sales cycles are very, very short. They're very, very short sales cycles. So you're prone to burning out. But if you're selling a product to General Electric or Verizon or Thermo Fisher, insert name of a big company here, these are sometimes multi-million-dollar deals. So it's going to take anywhere from 8 to 12 months, sometimes 24 months to close a deal. So usually an enterprise account executive is working maybe 5 deals a year if they're crushing it, right? And if all 5 of those deals close and all of them are multi-million-dollar deals, well, you're going to be feeling well. So that's what I would do. All right, I'll try to give you guys a good view here. Hey, Sam, thank you so much for your $10 donation. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sam, for the $10 donation. Very kind of you. I appreciate it. And hopefully you're having a great Memorial Day weekend. So what you're seeing now here, everybody, is the World Trade Center. I believe that's FDR Drive and the Brooklyn Bridge. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video. And click the subscribe button if you're new. We start these live streams at 8:30 p.m. We talk about the financial markets, tech sales, the economy, really anything, just have a good chat. So if you want to be a part of that, feel free. This is where we came from here. I'll try to show you what the Manhattan Bridge looks like from standing on top of it. But a lot of notable photographers in New York actually come up on the Manhattan Bridge and cut holes in the fence here. And I think that's going to give you guys a really, really nice view. So look at this. I'll try not to drop you guys, but if I do, we'll see you on Tuesday. Hey, FredEx is buy right and sit tight. I agree. Jesse Livermore and Jack Bogle coined those terms. Let's move on. Hopefully that was a nice view. It's going to get even better as we progress over the bridge. I'm surprised we haven't seen the subway come over. Maybe it's running on a holiday schedule. Hey, Mike C. This is Tom. I got to visit New York City again. It's been way too long. I agree, Mike. You got to come back. Aussie. So Aussie, it's going to be starting up very soon. I had to deprioritize it because over the last 6 months I've been working on a really, really big deal, which has finally come to fruition as of Friday. So I'll be sure to inform you guys about that as soon as I can. And my time should be a little bit more freed up. All right, let me try to give you guys a better view. Hold on. How was that? I couldn't really see it because I was just pointing the camera over the fence. So hopefully you guys saw a good view. But I mean, how could you not look at the view of Lower Manhattan and not be inspired that anything is possible in this world? I mean, this is the greatest city in the world by far. I'll try to show you guys the Brooklyn side. So this is the Brooklyn side of the Brooklyn Bridge. You could actually see one of the boats going by. Now take a look at all of those apartments over in Dumbo. Could you only imagine having an apartment that is facing Lower Manhattan? This is your view every single night when you go to sleep. It's unbelievable. Hey, Lila is here. What's up, Lila? Thank you for joining us. Andrew says, Tom, what'd you do for Memorial Day? I spent a lot of time in Central Park, kind of just hanging out, reading. So I think we covered most of the stuff that's going to be going on next week on Wall Street. We just have one other thing to cover, and I think it's the most important topic, or will be the most important topic of next week. I'll sort of show you guys what the bridge looks like. This is the Manhattan Bridge. But can you believe it, guys? This Thursday is already June 1st. Kind of crazy to think about. And on June 1st, or I should say the first business day of every single month, the Institute for Supply Management always releases the PMI numbers, or the Purchasers Managers Index. And it's very possible that we are reaching some sort of a trough in the PMIs. Now, again, if you type exclamation point Y chart, so exclamation point YCHART in the chat, I'm going to give you guys a free resource where it is a compilation of 10 years worth of data of PMI numbers. And essentially, you will be able to see the business cycle in real time, where PMIs tend to peak and where PMIs tend to trough. And it's so important that we keep up on this data because there's extreme high correlations between the manufacturing sector growing and GDP growth, thus leading to corporate earnings growth and S&P 500 positive returns, and vice versa. So if the PMIs are rolling over and declining, well, we can infer that GDP growth is probably going to slow, and corporate earnings are probably going to decline, profit margins are going to compress, and then the S&P 500 will be down to sideways. We may be able to see the opposite happening now. So consensus is for a 47 reading. That's the same reading we had in April. So we'll see. Maybe, usually, historically, the PMIs tend to peter out and go through a trough right in the mid-40s. And this is just as the market is beginning to recover. Yeah, sorry guys, I'm not catching up on the chats. It's really windy here. I'm not sure if you could notice, and the bridge is shaking, and I'm not a big fan of heights. Beautiful views from here. It's almost like an ASMR video up here. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed those views from the Manhattan Bridge. We are now going to be walking back. We won't go all the way to Brooklyn since it's getting a little bit late. I'll take you guys back to Manhattan. I'm not going to ditch you up on the bridge. Jeffrey says, for being afraid of heights, you're doing a great job on the views. Yeah, I mean, particularly this one here, right? Because they cut a huge hole. Look at the size of the hole these photographers cut in this fence. Now, back in the day, way, way before I was born, none of this existed. I'm not sure if you guys knew that. The railing on the bridge only went up this high. That's it, right here. I couldn't even imagine what that must be like. I'd be freaking out. Because it is a long way down, guys. I'll point the camera directly down and you guys can see. That is a long way down, man. It's probably too dark, can't even see, but trust me when I say that. It is a long way down. Rob H says, I feel like the Brooklyn Bridge walk was nicer. It definitely is a lot more tourist friendly, let me tell you that. Not a lot of tourists walk the Manhattan Bridge. It's not a very big tourist attraction. The Brooklyn Bridge is, not the Manhattan Bridge. The Manhattan Bridge is very dark, it's more urban. It's mainly a commuter bridge. It's for people to get home, to come to Manhattan. The Brooklyn Bridge is for the tourists, right? It's, I would definitely agree with Rob. It's more inviting. This is like something out of a Joker movie, right? You have like one flickering street lamp, and then you have, this narrow path. But in my personal opinion, what do you guys think? Do you think the views are better from the Manhattan Bridge or the Brooklyn Bridge? I think they're better, in my opinion, from the Manhattan Bridge. Even though you could see more stuff from the Brooklyn Bridge, you could see all of Midtown Manhattan. I think I like the view of the World Trade Center a little bit better from the Manhattan Bridge. Look at how cool this is. I'll point the camera directly down. Let me take you guys out of here. So that's where you guys were. You were hanging right off the side of the bridge. Not bad. Oh, I forgot. Friday, big number. We're going to get the non-farm payrolls, or the jobs number. Now, I take that back at what I said about the PMIs as being the most important. The jobs number is going to be the most important because we're going to get our updated unemployment rate. Now, the unemployment rate right now, I believe, is what, 3.4%? Which is the lowest level pretty much in history since the 1970s. We have the lowest level of unemployment. And if you think about monetary policy, which is the Federal Reserve setting interest rates, not only has Fed Chairman Jerome Powell said this, but New York Fed President John Williams said, in order for us to even think about raising interest rates, or cutting interest rates, we're going to need to see unemployment tick up to 5%. Well, over the last two non-farm payroll reports, unemployment's actually been going in the opposite direction. Unemployment's actually been going down. So it's going to be all eyes on this jobs number to see if we can get a material uptick in unemployment. This is some cool graffiti right here. I think this picture is very unique, this shot. You have the big columns here on the Manhattan Bridge, and then you have the World Trade Center in the background. Really nice. Someone says New York, born and raised, but I've never liked graffiti. I think on the bridge it's all right. I agree with you. On a residential street in the neighborhood, it's not good. It brings property values down. It doesn't look good, but you know, if you're walking across the Manhattan Bridge, it kind of looks like a movie set. Kind of looks unique, looks cool. But generally speaking, I agree with you for sure. Sparks Carnival says U.S. college enrollment numbers are going down due to the red-hot labor market. Down 0.5% from a year ago. Is a college degree as valuable as what it used to be? Well, I think it's an interesting topic. Well, my answer is yes and no. I think it's all about what you make of it, right? Is it wise to go to a private school if you have no scholarship and you're not wealthy, and you're going to take out $250,000 worth of student loans to get a degree that is probably only going to, get you like a $50,000 salary after graduation, yeah, I think that's unwise. I think that's unwise. However, just with anything, and the problem is this, right? I'll just say it. I don't care about being controversial. We'll wait till the subway goes over. At least in my high school, all of the guidance counselors, all they did is hammer college down your throat. But they never talked about the cost. And I think the cost is the most important variable. So, I don't know, my advice would be, it is worth it, but you need to make sure you are majoring in something useful that is going to gain you a very high-paying job. And I wouldn't take on debt to go to college. That's what I'd say. So, but guys, we got to cut the stream short here because my phone is going to die. But I want to thank all of you for coming out and enjoying the stream tonight over the Manhattan Bridge. We talked about a lot. We talked about cybersecurity, manufacturing numbers, the jobs report on Friday, interest rates. We'll watch the yield curve this week on Wall Street. And lastly, rest in peace to the greatest Wall Street legend, William J. O'Neill, the founder of Investors Business Daily, passed away today. And that one person changed the entire course of my life, and many, many others, millions of other investors, millions of other people who work on Wall Street and on Main Street. So with that being said, if you've enjoyed the show, feel free to leave a like on the video, subscribe if you're new, and I will see everybody right back here tomorrow at 8:30. Big thank you to all of our veterans. Happy Memorial Day to everybody. There's always a bull market somewhere. You just need to know where to look. See you guys tomorrow.